Well, good morning, friends.
Good morning.
CP and D. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good, man.
Good.
Good.
Big Thursday morning,
Thursday morning.
October 15th. And, gosh, we're still working away and everything, getting that much closer to the launch. And
Yes.
thank you again for your patience. We thought we'd bring in some entertainment for you while you're waiting. So, actually, I found this guitar. Who am I kidding? I didn't find it. It's been sitting in my room for a while. But
Yes.
I pulled it out of storage about 2 weeks ago. I hadn't played for a long time, so I thought that maybe we could incorporate it into our lesson for the day.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
So bear with me. I'm still kind of learning, but I think we'll have some fun with it. So, just making sure she's doing all right. Yeah, she's in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, what's your guitar's name? Aren't
You
you
know-
supposed to name your guitar?
You're supposed to, and I actually haven't come up with a name yet because I'm not that good yet. So I can't make her sing, but and I certainly can't sing myself. You're about to see.
Yeah,
We'll have some
pretty
fun
bad.
with this though. Okay, so what's the question for the day?
The question is, what's the difference between a simple carb and a complex carb? When should we eat them?
That's a great question. There's certainly a ton of hype in the news and in the media, of course, about carbohydrates, and coming off of this, the low-fat craze of the '80s, which was essentially a really high processed simple carbohydrate diet, and then of course in the '90s we started moving into the Atkins era where it was low carbohydrate. Then certainly carbs definitely they became a buzzword. And but there was also a certain amount of fear around them. I know I've addressed carbohydrates a lot, but really they are certainly an incredible macronutrient in that they play such an amazing role in our bodies. Now, we utilize carbohydrates for all kinds of things, but essentially, carbohydrates are your fruits, your legumes, which is your beans and your lentils, your root vegetables like your sweet potatoes, your grains, so your cereals, your oatmeals, your rice, your amaranth or quinoa, all these different kinds of carbohydrates. So, essentially, what are carbohydrates and what do they do? Well, they all break down into sugar in the body. Now, the key and the difference between a simple carbohydrate and a complex carbohydrate is simple carbohydrates are broken down very, very fast in the body, and the process in which it actually takes to break down a simple carbohydrate, it's minimized, and so it's done a lot faster. And usually simple carbohydrates they're either called monosaccharides or disaccharides, meaning one sugar or two sugars. Complex carbohydrates are polysaccharides, which simply means many sugars, and it takes your body a lot longer to break them down. So the difference between the two, between a simple and a complex, would be like fruit. Fruit is fructose, and it is what they consider a simple carbohydrate. It's a simple sugar, and it doesn't take as much to actually break down the fructose in the fruit. Another example of a simple carbohydrate is glucose or sucrose. Now, essentially, everything's broken down into glucose in the body, but we already talked about the rate at which it's done. Your complex carbohydrates are going to be your polysaccharides, so they're going to be your starches, which are going to be anything that really isn't sweet. So that's how you can really start to determine what your simple and your complex carbohydrates are. Now, of course, as we talk about carbohydrates with weight loss, there can be a negative connotation with simple carbohydrates. So there can definitely be that negative connotation with the simple carbohydrates. But then we got our complex carbohydrates. Yeah! And then we got our simple carbohydrates. But then we got our complex carbohydrates. So, remember, complex carbohydrates, especially when it comes to the weight loss, are going to be a little bit more friendly on your body. The simple carbohydrates, they're going to be broken down a lot faster. They can spike your blood sugar levels, and then, of course, which is going to essentially clean the blood. It drives the nutrients into the muscle.
Yes.
When do we want to eat them? Simple carbohydrates. So the simple carbohydrates, we want to eat them at breakfast. Yeah. Simple carbohydrates at breakfast. So we're going to take those simple carbohydrates, and we'll also eat them, right after we exercise. Sorry, I'm having way too much fun
Yeah,
here.
they might not be able to hear you.
Okay, so simple carbohydrates. Yeah, you're right. So simple carbohydrates right after breakfast. So simple carbohydrates right after exercise. So I hope you always remember that because this is absolutely ridiculous. But
Yes.
at least we're having some fun with
We
it.
should play some Metallica and play us out.
I can do some of that. And then when it comes to your complex carbohydrates, which we're gonna be we're always gonna want to eat those complex carbohydrates usually a little bit later on in the day, or another great time for complex carbohydrates. It is early in the morning, and they've actually found that complex carbohydrates usually they're a lot higher in fiber as well, and they found that if you eat a breakfast that's higher in fiber, you're actually half as likely to experience cravings throughout the day simply because the fiber slows down the gastric emptying in the stomach, and it actually slows down the food as it's passing through the small intestine. So it keeps you fuller longer. Really cool stuff. So, little outro with some Metallica.
Yes. Is this Inner Sandman?
Oh yeah, there's a little Enter Sandman for you. Or, gosh, all the Metallica I know is some pretty.
Yes.
There you go. There's a little sample for you.
He's playing all night at the Phoenix Hilton.
Right, at the Phoenix County Fair. All right, guys. So there's your simple and your complex carbohydrates for you.
Yes.
Until next time, have a wonderful Thursday, and David, we'll see you tomorrow with this. Yeah.
We should put together a YouTube song or something.
Well, all right, guys. See ya.
Bye.